You wake up, and you're already tired. Your body might get up, but your mind, it feels like it's dragging 1,000 chains behind it. The day hasn't even started, yet everything inside you feels heavy. The thoughts, the chest, even the silence around you, it all weighs something. You look around, and technically, nothing seems wrong. Work is waiting. Your phone lights up with messages, calls to action disguised as opportunities. And everywhere you turn, the world chants the same phrase like a broken record. Come on, you got this. But let me tell you something that nobody ever really says out loud. You're not just tired, you're sick. And it's not just in your body, it's deeper than that. It's not even just in you, it's all around us. We're living in a society that looks normal on the outside but is silently eating people from the inside. There are no walls, no angry bosses yelling, no handcuffs, no bars. But there's something worse now, something invisible, something much more effective. We've been tricked into becoming our own slave drivers. There's no external command shouting at you to perform, but there is a constant whisper in your mind saying, you should do more, be more, achieve more. Don't stop. Never stop. That voice doesn't scream, but it's always there. Philosopher Byung-Chul called it the performance society, a world where you think you're free, but in reality, you're trapped inside your own expectations. Trapped by the pressure to be productive. Trapped by the lie that rest is weakness. You've become your own oppressor. Every second has to matter. Every move needs to be useful. Every breath has to be going somewhere. And if you stop, you feel guilty. You start asking yourself, what's wrong with me, when all you did was breathe? You feel anxious if you're not replying to messages. Frustrated if you don't tick off every goal on your list, even when nobody else is expecting that from you. That's not just stress. That's not just being tired. That is burnout. But not the kind of burnout that disappears after a long weekend. This is existential burnout, the kind that hollows you out while you keep pretending that you're fine on the outside. If you've been feeling this way, it's not a coincidence. It's because you're in the system, and the system has trained you to believe this is all normal. But it's not. This video is not a pep talk. It's not here to squeeze more performance out of you. It's a wake-up call, because maybe for the first time someone's telling you you're not weak, you're not broken, you're just trying to survive in a society that punishes the strong by forcing them to be strong all the time. Take a breath. We need to talk about this, and I need you to know you're not alone in feeling this way. You see, back in the day, power was loud. It wore uniforms. It yelled orders. There were prisons, factories, asylums. Discipline was visible and strict. Michel Foucault called it a disciplinary society, a world where someone gave orders and you obeyed. Simple power dynamics. Do as you're told. But that era is fading. Today's control is silent, sophisticated, almost seductive. Nobody forbids you from anything anymore. Instead, the world tells you, you can do everything. You can be whoever you want. You can build your dream life. All you need is hustle, discipline, focus. Sounds empowering, right? But there's a trap hidden in that message. Because if everything depends on you, then every failure is your fault. That's the performance trap. There are no chains on your wrists, no boss breathing down your neck, but you're still working non-stop. You've become what Han calls an entrepreneur of yourself. You are the CEO, the manager, the worker, and the security guard of your own life. And here's the real danger. An entrepreneur can never stop. There's always more to do. There's always a way to improve. There's no finish line, only more targets, more tasks, more pressure. Even rest has become work. Reading? Better be self-development. Meditation? Should improve your focus and mental clarity. Exercise? Gotta track it, measure it, optimize it. Even sleep has become something to monitor and manage, something to do right so you can do more tomorrow. Everything has turned into a performance. You don't rest, you recharge. You don't live, you optimize. And the moment you slip or break down or can't keep up, you blame yourself. Nobody told you to push this hard, but that's the worst part. You told yourself to. You became the warden of your own internal prison. A prison built not with bricks, but with expectations, metrics, deadlines, notifications, self-demand. And over time, you forgot where the system ends, and you begin. But if this pressure is slowly crushing you from the inside, Maybe it's because there's something deeply broken about the model we're living in. It is not natural to be at war with yourself. And make no mistake, you are at war. This silent war is leaving bruises. Not the kind you can see, but the kind you feel every day, in your mind, in your body, in your soul. And that's what we're going to unpack next. Because this isn't just about burnout. It's about a virus that wears a smile, excessive positivity. You've been taught to smile through it all, even when you're falling apart inside. You say, "I'm fine," even when you're barely holding on. You put on this mask of being in control, of being efficient, upbeat, on top of things, even when every part of you is screaming for a break. Why? Because we live in a culture that doesn't punish with violence. It punishes with motivation. It doesn't scream at you. It seduces you. It encourages you. It smiles while it breaks you. That's the violence of positivity. Byung-Chul said it best. The 21st century is no longer defined by repression. We no longer live under censorship, prohibitions, or forceful restrictions. What makes us sick today is not the no, it's the endless yes. And that sounds strange at first. How can yes you can be harmful? Because when everything is always possible, when every moment must be optimized, when every second has to be meaningful, then failure becomes unforgivable, sadness becomes a flaw, rest becomes guilt, slowness becomes sin, and the more you try to live up to this smiling standard of endless productivity, the more you disappear, the more you get erased. This is why depression, anxiety, ADHD, burnout, they're not just personal issues anymore. They're social symptoms. They're signs that the human soul was never built to function like a machine, constantly producing, constantly available, constantly improving. And here's the most brutal twist. You no longer even feel like a victim. Instead, you feel guilty. You're not just tired, you think you're lazy. You're not just overwhelmed, you think you're ungrateful. Didn't wake up at 5 a.m.? Lazy. Didn't finish that course? Undisciplined. Didn't post content today? Falling behind. Didn't do yoga, journaling, breathwork, and meditation before breakfast? Clearly, you're failing at life. That's what the positivity culture has done to us. It teaches us that if we're not glowing with enthusiasm, radiating high vibes, and checking every box on our self-care to-do list, then we're broken. But that's the lie. The reality is, this culture doesn't allow space for being human. It doesn't allow sadness. It doesn't allow boredom. It doesn't allow stillness. It doesn't even allow silence. Because if you're not performing, even your leisure, your hobbies, your rest, you're wasting time. So you keep running, you keep optimizing, you keep posting, you keep improving. And the more you do, the further you drift from yourself. You become a motivational version of you, while the real you is quietly dying on the inside. Positivity has turned into a dictatorship. You're surrounded by these empty phrases. Just believe in yourself. Be your best self. Grind harder. Push through. They sound empowering, but they're exhausting. Because when you're constantly told to believe in yourself, but you still feel like you're drowning, it doesn't motivate you. It makes you feel like you're the problem. You feel like you're the only one struggling. You scroll through perfect lives on social media. You see people winning every day, hustling, smiling, thriving. And you wonder, why am I like this? Why can't I keep up? But what you don't see is the burnout behind the filters, the anxiety behind the captions, the exhaustion behind the hustle. You're not alone. And no, you weren't born broken. You were born into a system that's slowly breaking people. Because this constant pressure, this nonstop performance, this demand for more, it's not human. Behind all the energy, the motivation, the self-improvement, and the personal branding, something precious is getting lost. You forget how to simply exist. You forget how to be without trying to become. You stop feeling. You stop resting. You stop wondering. You just keep performing. And slowly, you lose the most sacred parts of yourself. But this next part is important, because there's something you used to know, something your soul remembers even if your brain has forgotten. A doorway you've walked past 1,000 times but never opened. And that doorway is silence. It's boredom. It's doing nothing. And I know, that sounds like weakness, right? It sounds like laziness, like wasting time. But let me show you why it might be the most radical, powerful thing you could ever do. When was the last time you truly did nothing? Not scrolling, Not planning, not checking, not consuming, just being. Most people don't even remember. And it's not their fault. We've been conditioned to fear stillness. We've been trained to see every quiet moment as a moment wasted. The second silence creeps in, we fill it. A notification, a podcast, a quick task, a productivity hack, anything to avoid just being alone with ourselves. But here's the truth no one talks about. Boredom isn't the enemy. It's a portal. Byung-Chul says that in the past, boredom was the birthplace of ideas, of presence, of art, of philosophy. It's in that stillness, when your mind isn't buzzing with tasks, that you meet yourself again. Deep boredom, the kind that isn't immediately filled, creates a space. And inside that space, something sacred returns, contemplation. But that space is disappearing. We live in a world of chopped-up attention, constant multitasking, and mental noise. You reply to messages while watching videos, while thinking about work, while feeling guilty for not working harder. Even when your body is still, your brain is sprinting. And that sprint has a cost. It steals your depth. You no longer feel things all the way through. You don't reflect, you react. You don't experience, you skim. Even your own emotions become something you scroll past. You feel, but don't process. You live, but don't inhabit. That's why you're tired even after sleeping, anxious even in quiet, lonely even around people. Because your soul has forgotten how to stop. And stopping isn't failure. Stopping is healing. It's in the silence that you hear what the noise was hiding. It's in the pause that you realize how wounded you are. It's in the stillness that you come back to yourself, not the version you perform, but the version you are. But slowing down takes courage. You have to face the discomfort of doing nothing. You have to resist the urge to prove your worth through results. And you have to be willing to say no. No to the pressure, no to the expectations, no to the endless race. Han calls it a radical kind of freedom. Not being able is liberation. It sounds strange, doesn't it? We've always been told that freedom is about doing, more options, more power, more productivity. But what if real freedom is the power to not do, to not respond, to not produce, to not achieve, to simply say, I can't, I won't, I'm done. That kind of no, it's revolutionary. Because in a world addicted to speed, slowness is resistance. In a culture obsessed with output, rest is rebellion. And when you stop chasing, when you allow yourself to just exist, you start to heal. You feel present again, whole again, here again. But don't expect it to be easy. Don't expect applause. Stopping won't win you praise. It might even make you feel guilty at first, because everything in you has been programmed to perform. But stay with the stillness. Let the emptiness stretch. Let the silence speak. There is wisdom in the pause. There is power in the no. Because underneath the burnout, underneath the fatigue and guilt and overwhelm, there is a truth. And that truth is this: you are not weak. You are not failing because you're tired. You're tired because the system is sick. Because you've been trying to survive in a world that demands everything from you and offers nothing back. This isn't a personal failure. This is a collective cry. Burnout is not a glitch. It's a warning light on the dashboard of society. It's your soul's way of saying, I can't live like this anymore. So if you've made it this far, it means something inside you already knows. Something deep. Something real. And I want to say this clearly. You are not broken. You are responding perfectly to an inhuman system. And now comes the hardest part, and the most freeing. You have permission to stop. You have permission to rest. You have permission to not be productive. You have permission to be. No more justifying. No more pretending. No more measuring your worth in output or results or hustle. Start small. Start by doing nothing for 5 minutes. Start by saying no to one thing. Start by noticing the silence instead of running from it. Because healing won't come from another productivity hack. It won't come from fixing yourself. It will come when you finally stop trying to be enough, because you realize you already are. And if this video stirred something in you, if it gave a voice to the quiet pain you've been carrying, drop a comment. Tell me what hit you the hardest. Because the path out of burnout isn't paved alone. Healing begins with recognizing ourselves in each other. So keep going, but not faster. Go deeper. The next video on the channel continues this conversation, and trust me, you need to hear it. Because you weren't born to be a machine. You were born to be human, to feel, to rest, to simply exist, and that is enough.